Manx Radio's Update with Dave Moore.
The time is 5 o'clock. You're listening to Manx Radio. I am Dave Moore, and this is Update. Welcome to the programme. Half an hour of the latest news in the Isle of Man, plus Manx sport, business and travel updates along with the newsmakers in person. Coming up, there are reports of an outbreak of scabies in the island. We'll have the latest information. The UK politicians calling for a House of Commons debate on the Summerland disaster. Plus the latest news from the UK as they seek to introduce the assisted dying bill. That's all coming up in the next half hour. But first of all, the Update News headlines with Chanel Saku. Fastamai.
Advice is being issued after reports of several cases of the skin condition scabies on the island. As it's not a notifiable disease, the scale of the outbreak isn't clear, but Public Health says it supports healthcare practitioners in the management of infections when informed of an outbreak in an institutional setting. Baby loss certificates have been made available to Manx residents for the first time from today. Manx Care is offering the service to anyone who's lost a baby before 24 weeks. Jess Sherry from Laxey is applying and has told Manx Radio what it's meant to her.
It gave me like a really positive feeling, just to acknowledge that what I went through, I did go through that. There was a life that could have been.
A Castletown commissioner says he will be taking away all the concerns raised about Market Square back to the board. A public meeting was held last night about the local authority's decision to close the square to vehicles during the winter months and also to look to permanently pedestrianise the area. Colin Leather is one of two board members that attended the meeting.
Yeah, well, it's something to sit down and talk about all together and see where we go from here.
In international news, MPs have voted in favour of a bill which would allow terminally ill adults in England and Wales with less than 6 months to live to end their lives. A majority of politicians, including the UK Prime Minister, backed it, while his deputy, Angela Rayner, and Tory leader, Kemi Badenoch, were against it. The head of MI6 has accused Russia of carrying out a staggeringly reckless sabotage campaign across Europe. Richard Moore claims the Kremlin's trying to destabilize the UK, US and other Western allies of Ukraine. And TV licence is going up by £5 in April to £174.50. It follows a £10.50 increase 7 months ago. Those are your headlines. News at 6.
Thank you, Chanel. Now looking to the weather. Cloudy with outbreaks of rain, which will gradually clear later in the evening. As the fresh to strong wind turns to the south or southwest, tonight will be mostly dry, but rather cloudy, with hill fog as the south to southwest wind eases slightly later in the night. Minimum temperatures around 10 Celsius. Tomorrow, well, it'll be fairly cloudy, and although much of the day will be dry, a few outbreaks of rain are possible, most likely later in the afternoon. Breezy with a fresh to strong south to southwest wind, highs of 13 or possibly 14 degrees Celsius. Then a band of rain will spread across the island overnight into Sunday as the southerly wind becomes strong once more. A mixture of bright or sunny spells and scattered showers on Sunday with a fresh to strong southerly wind, which will turn to the southwest and moderate during the afternoon. Maximum temperatures around 12 or 13 Celsius.
Manx Glass and Glazing can supply and install single, double and triple glazing. Call 674 573 or visit the showroom on the Snugborough Trading Estate.
Cannell's Agricultural Supplies have been serving the good folk of the north for over 30 years, supplying homegrown wheats, whole and rolled oats, working clothing, fencing, animal feeds, parts, tools and emergency supplies. Call Julia on 880206 or find Cannell's on Facebook.
Patricia Wild Opticians is celebrating over 30 years of friendly, caring service in Farm Hill and Ramsey. Visit us for professional eye care with stress-free parking. Phone Patricia Wild Opticians on 813 977.
For over 25 years, Langness Maintenance Services have been the block paving specialists, including property maintenance, fencing and landscaping. Fast, reliable and competitive. For a free no-obligation quote, call Paddy on 49667. Langness Maintenance Services, 49667.
One architectural design company has particular expertise in achieving planning approval for a wide variety of projects, from landmark buildings to spectacular homes. Talk to the experts at Ellis Brown and get your project off the ground. For excellence in design, search Ellis Brown.
You're listening to the Isle of Man's quintessential daily news and current affairs roundup. Update on Manx Radio.
And we begin the programme with the news. Public Health Isle of Man has issued advice after reports received by Manx Radio of several cases of the skin condition scabies in the island. As it's not a notifiable disease, the scale of the outbreak isn't clear. But Public Health says it supports healthcare practitioners in the management of infections when informed of an outbreak in an institutional setting. Now, our reporter Simon Richardson joins me in the studio to talk about this. So, Simon, what do we know?
Well, Dave, because it's not a notifiable disease, the number of cases isn't known. Anecdotally, though, we understand there have been several cases in the north of the island and a few cases elsewhere. I think the point is that people need to be vigilant should family members show any symptoms.
So what are those symptoms and what should people be looking out for?
Well, Public Health have issued us with some helpful advice on this. They say scabies is a skin condition caused by a tiny mite, which is smaller than a pinhead and actually invisible to the naked eye. OK, this is the bit where I apologise to anybody who may be in the middle of their tea, but it needs to be said that the mites burrow into the skin and lay eggs underneath the skin, causing a rash and spots. These can appear anywhere, most often on hands, between fingers and between toes. It can also be spread to genital areas by sexual contact.
So how easily is the condition passed from one person to another?
Well, scabies is passed on by skin contact, though it's unlikely to be caught through a short-lived contact. Longer contact is needed. That could be as little as 5 to 10 minutes. Children playing together are especially likely to pass it from one to another.
OK, so if I think I might have scabies, what would my symptoms be?
Well, Dave, you'd be scratching and probably wouldn't get much sleep at night as the itching is especially intense at night. You might also find a raised rash or spots.
And how serious is scabies?
It's not usually a serious condition, but it does need to be treated. A variety of special lotions and creams that kill the mites are available at your pharmacy or via your GP. If you think you or your child has scabies, it's best, though, to see your GP to be sure. And as spread within households is common, it's really important to treat all family members in the household at the same time, even if there are no symptoms.
And any other advice?
Well, Public Health says you should wash all the clothes, soft slippers, towels, bed linen, all of the family's bed linen, and all at the same time. You should do that washing, even if there are no symptoms. Adults and children aged 5 and over can go back to work or school as soon as they've started the treatment. It's important, though, to avoid close contact with other people for the first 24 hours after commencing treatment.
Simon Richardson, thank you. Assisted dying could become legal in England and Wales after the bill was backed by MPs in a historic vote. It means the legislation will now progress to the committee stage for scrutiny, while the Lords will also be given opportunities to express their views. Similar moves have been undertaken here in the Isle of Man. The bill would allow adults who are terminally ill to request medical assistance to end their lives with the approval of 2 doctors and a High Court judge.
The ayes to the right, 330. The noes to the left, 275. The ayes have it, and look!
Kim Ledbetter, the MP who introduced the motion, says it was a constructive debate.
We've now got to make sure that we take on board everything that was discussed in the Chamber, whether that's the state of palliative care, that's the NHS, it's the rights of disabled people. Those are all really valuable campaigns, and I look forward to championing them all, but also taking the bill forward to make sure that we give terminally ill adults that choice that they desperately need at the end of their lives.
Politicians voted by a majority of 55, with 330 in favour. 275 were against it, including Conservative MP Danny Kruger, who says he's very disappointed.
I think that is a very dangerous thing to introduce into family life, and particularly for the most vulnerable people. I'm not sure we're ever going to be able to improve the bill to remove that biggest concern that I have, but I'm open to the effort. I think we should do what we can to make it safer.
UK Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer and Chancellor Rachel Reeves supported the proposal, while Tory leader Kemi Badenoch and Deputy PM Angela Rayner voted against it. Frank Sutton, who's been diagnosed with liver disease and cancer, is delighted with the result.
It's probably not going to go through totally in my lifetime, but for other people and the people I've met since my prognoses of both diseases, I'm just so happy.
Now, staying with the United Kingdom, an MP is calling for a parliamentary debate on the Summerland fire. Warrington South Representative Sarah Hall made the announcement during yesterday's Business of the House sitting at Westminster. The tragedy claimed the lives of 50 people on August the 2nd, 1973, including 2 from her constituency. Alan Barker was 20 at the time, while Sean Kelly was 21 when they died as fire destroyed the Summerland indoor entertainment and leisure complex. Sarah Hall told the House,
"This year marked the 51st anniversary of the Summerland disaster on the Isle of Man, in which 50 people, including 11 children, lost their lives after a fire engulfed the Summerland leisure complex. My constituent Valerie Daniels and her younger sister were both impacted by that horrifying tragedy. 2 young men from Warrington died in the fire." A report into the disaster was released in the following year and catalogued a series of failures from the design of the building to the fire safety regulations. But to date, no individuals or groups have been singled out for blame for what happened. Will my right honourable friend find time for a debate on the issue so that survivors and the families of those who lost their lives can finally get justice?
In response to the request, Leader of the House of Commons Lucy Powell suggested Miss Hall raises the subject again during next week's Grenfell inquiry debate.
"I'm really sorry to hear about that tragedy that affected my honourable friend's constituents. These are incredibly pertinent issues, ones that we should be debating in this House. She might want to raise them as part of the Grenfell inquiry debate that will take place next week. If not, I'm sure there'll be other opportunities for her to raise them."
The quotes you heard in this item were voiced by Manx Radio staff. You're listening to Manx Radio. This is Update. And Manx Care is making baby loss certificates available to those who've had a miscarriage before 24 weeks from today. Plans for the scheme were announced in September after a similar one was launched in England earlier this year. Diane Rubery is from Manx Care. It was her idea to look into introducing the certificates in the island. She's organised a special Starlight Walk to honour the launch.
SANS, which is the Stillbirth and Neonatal Society, they're a national society in England who actually support baby loss and miscarriage. And they are organising Starlight Walks across the country to remember babies just by quietly walking through in the dark, looking at the stars. Because SAMS do such a fantastic job raising awareness of baby loss, I felt myself that I felt I needed to do something, and this gave me an opportunity to actually do it. And it sort of snowballed really, because it was just me originally. I was going to walk around the roundhouse track a couple of times just to raise a little bit of money and awareness. But it just sort of has taken off, and lots of other parents are wanting to join me, which I'm honoured.
And if anyone else is wanting to join you, how can they do that?
They're quite welcome to come along. The baby launch certificate will be around about 7 o'clock, and then the Starlight Walk will be straight after that. The Roundhouse is actually putting on, the cafe is staying open, so if anybody wants to get a drink afterwards, the cafe will be open for them to buy that. And it's basically just a quiet walk around the track just to raise awareness of how many babies are actually lost through baby loss.
You're listening to the Isle of Man's quintessential daily news and current affairs roundup. Update on Manx Radio.
A public meeting was held last night about Castletown Commissioner's decision to close Market Square to vehicles during the winter months. Concerns were raised by residents about the lack of communication from the local authority about the decision and the process, no public consultation into the winter closure, and there being no consideration for traders. Local Democracy reporter Emma Draper spoke to Arbury, Castletown and Malua MHK Tim Glover and Richard Ronan, who helped organise the meeting.
I think tonight was about listening, and one of the big things that's come out of it is a lack of communication, a lack of consultation. Everybody was here, loves the town. Obviously it was a meeting called predominantly by those who want the square open in the winter, so it was very much that way, the general feeling within the room. But it is an area that is, I think, pretty much split the town.
How do you think the meeting went this evening, and did you get what you wanted out of it?
I think the meeting went well. One wonderful turnout from the people of Castletown. That's the big news story for me, is how many people turned up to this meeting. I thought it was largely constructive. Obviously, public meetings can turn into a bit of a bun fight. I think the chairman, captain of the parish, Russian Paul Costain, handled the meeting really, really well. Everybody who wanted to speak spoke. So yeah, I must also say it was good that Jimmy Cubban and Colin Lever turned up, the only two people that turned up from the commissioners. I don't agree with everything they said, but at least they were here, which is important, and our two constituency MHKs were here as well. The meeting, a motion has been forwarded, which the commissioners will get. The new minister, Dr. Haywood, will get also. I think the message you're getting here, I've just spoken to one of the prominent traders in the town now, and it's not a question of can you think about opening the square. They say they need it open now. Okay, let's have the discussion in and around this winter and see if we can come up with compromises and see what the real balance of people's businesses are, and going forward with that.
Moving on, Manx Utilities is giving assurances that the treated water that enters Laxey Bay from the proposed sewage treatment plant at Axenfell Plantation will comply with DEFRA's latest bathing water quality requirements. The authority's executive director with responsibility for water and wastewater, Tim Wokes, was at Baldrine Methodist Hall for the last of two public information events where he spoke to Simon Richardson about some of the issues raised by members of the public in both Laxey and Baldrine.
The feedback has been fairly balanced, I would say. We've obviously got loads of feedback forms that we need to take away and do some analysis on, but based on the conversations that we've had, there are a number of people that still say that they'd like to see sewage pumped all the way to Miriveg. There are a number of people that believe what we proposed a few years ago down at the Cairn site is the right way forward. But what we're proposing, we believe, is an excellent compromise in that it gives us the majority of the benefits of a pump away option, but without the complete cost and environmental impact of that. So yeah, loads of questions on odour, vibration, links back to the old issues that we had at Whitehoe, and we've been able to explain to people that it's so different now. We're 25 years on from that. Vibration and noise just aren't an issue with our new pump stations. Odour, again, odour control facilities at all of the sites that we've got. Odour won't be an issue. So yeah, all the questions that you'd expect, and we've been able to, I think, give most people assurance that what we're proposing won't give real detriment to the local residents' lives, but will provide that benefit that people want.
In terms of the end result, of course, everybody, including yourselves, are singing from the same hymn sheet, in effect. One of the issues that seems to have been raised when we've been talking to people was, if you like, the quality of the final product that will be disposed of back into the sea. I think the question was that it was going to be good and of bathing water quality, but not excellent. Maybe you could outline what difference between the two.
Yeah, certainly. So with all of our treatment works, the final effluent that we produce is dictated to a licence of discharge that's given to us by DEFRA. DEFRA have set out fairly recently new bathing water standards for the Isle of Man, and that tells us that we have to provide a good standard of bathing water within the bay. So the difference between good and excellent is really based on level of what we call fecal indicators, so the amount of bacteria essentially within the water. I can't remember the exact figures, I'm afraid, but there is a difference between good and excellent. So obviously excellent is slightly better water quality. So we've committed to providing good, but actually the modelling that we've done for Laxey indicates we'll likely be providing that excellent bathing water quality that people really do want.
One question, the fact choosing Axenfell, given its height above the village, were there no other sites lower that might have been possible?
So we looked at many sites. Axenfell really is the preferred site to us that is available and deliverable, and that's the key with this. There have been lots of questions on pumping up hills. People saying, well, it's crazy that you're pumping up a hill, but actually pumping sewage up hills is not unique to this scheme. It is done across the Isle of Man, it is done across the UK, and it's done across the world. It's quite often within sewage networks that sewage runs downhill, and where all those sewers come together, the confluence, quite often they're in locations that aren't suitable for sewage treatment works, and so that sewage is pumped away. Interestingly, on the Isle of Man, a good comparator is the Douglas catchment, which obviously pumps to Miriveg. Now, to pump from Douglas to Miriveg actually goes up around about 100 metres. So here, to get from Laxey up to Axenfell, we're looking at about 120 metres. So it's actually not that different, and quite common everywhere that sewage is pumped uphill.
Manx Radio Travel, driven by Quayside Tyres and Service Centre.
The good news this evening is that there are no delays reported at either the airport or the ferry ports, and there are no reports of any delays on the roads either.
Ask how you can spread the cost interest-free at
Quayside. Now, with less than a month to go before the big day, festive preparations are in full swing at a house in Douglas. Each year, Barbara Livesey and her family go all out to adorn their home at 42 Ballabruey Way with Christmas lights and decorations, and it's all for a good cause, as Chanel Sakou has been finding out.
I think it's the spirit of Christmas, really, isn't it? The joy and sort of being able to give little gifts to people. Yeah, just really the spirit of it. So we first started with display of lights in 2012 when my son started primary school with just some friends coming round of his. And it was only a couple of people then suggested about putting donation boxes out. So it was about 2016 when we put the first donation box out. And at that time, that was for Rebecca House. And ever since then, each year we've put a donation box off and donated to a different charity each year. This year we've chose Heroes on the Water. So it's one that's quite close to sort of us as a family, because my dad was in the special constables policeman for 21 years prior to coming to the island. My brother was in the RAF for 14 years, and I'm due to retire next year, and at that point I'll have done 40 years as a midwife.
Absolutely amazing. So Barbara, for those who may have not seen your house, what can we expect?
So you'll probably see the glow before you find us, but there's lots of lights, sort of ornaments and displays. We also have the garage window decorated as well, so you come up the drive to have a little look there. Outside there we have a little box with naughty and nice little stickers for children to just help themselves. Some little gifts from the elves this year. We have a daily advent draw where people answer a simple question. We have reindeer food for the reindeers for people to take. And we also have a little gift box for thank you for any donations that anybody wants to leave.
Now, I know it started 12 years ago. How did it build and build and build to get as big as it is now?
It's like anything. I think it becomes a bit obsessive. You start with a few lights and then you just sort of see more. And as you go along, you just build on the different lights.
You're listening to the Isle of Man's quintessential daily news and current affairs roundup. Update on Manx Radio.
Manx National Heritage is to host a free-day programme and exhibition at the Manx Museum tomorrow. Attendees will learn about the global efforts to find the missing after the Holocaust, including connections made to the many Jewish refugees held in the island during the Second World War. Siobhan Fletcher caught up with the archivist Wendy Thurkettle.
Well, we're delighted to host it at the museum. We've got 3 visiting people and they're bringing a pop-up exhibition called Fate Unknown, and they're also delivering in a short programme late Saturday morning through to early Saturday afternoon. And we have Dr. Christine Schmidt and Elise Bath from the Wiener Holocaust Library and Professor Dan Stone. So really, really interested to hear what they have to say about their various pieces of work.
So why bring this to the Isle of Man, and what's the hope going forward? What do you think people are going to gain from the day?
Hopefully understanding what's happening elsewhere. They can explain and introduce the work that's been going on post-war, explaining the ways of bringing content together into a digital archive. And they'll all have something individual to bring. They're going to make it Isle of Man specific in the sense of trying to bring in the internment story here. The island had many Jewish refugees who fled Nazi persecution. Of course, they were trying to find out news from their family during the war and also after the war. And we have some first-hand testimony in the manuscripts at the museum, thankfully, which helps tell individual stories.
Time for sport now with Darren Timson.
Good evening. Starting with FC Isle of Man. The Ravens face a prospect of 8 games unbeaten this weekend as they prepare for their latest match in the North West Counties Football League. The Manx side take on AFC Liverpool at the Marine Travel Arena on Saturday with kick-off at 12 p.m. Paul Jones' side could have broken a new winning streak last weekend at Pilkington, but they had to fight back from 3-1 down to take a point from the game. Liverpool are one of the league's top scorers with 52 goals, and Paul Jones has said he wants more focus from his defence if they are to get a result in Crosby.
I expect us to be a lot tighter at our end of the pitch on Saturday in a game that traditionally has a lot of goals in it, but hopefully not into our goal this weekend. And we're scoring, creating lots of chances at the moment. So we need to keep doing that and just be a little bit more clinical at times, and we'll be okay. But we know we've got a good player group, but that doesn't mean we're guaranteed to win games at this level. And we can see from the last couple of weeks, if we switch off for a moment against any team in this league, then we can make our life harder than it needs to be.
Talking about the game then this weekend, AFC Liverpool sit 11th in the league. Yourselves have yet to win away to AFC Liverpool in four games. How are you approaching this game this weekend to make sure that you keep building on the momentum that you've been able to gather over the last few weeks?
Yeah, this week we've had a good week in training, just kind of identifying ways that we can improve as a group, especially with the ball. I think we're doing quite well at the moment, but there's loads of opportunities to develop and improve. Very hopefully we'll see some of that against AFC Liverpool. And if we stand still, and everybody else keeps making progress, then we won't be in fifth place at the end of the season. So we have to keep finding ways to improve. As I say, like in possession especially, I hope we don't need to go back to work on out of possession stuff. Like how we play is pretty nailed on, and it's just up to the players to deliver that consistently, and then we shouldn't be conceding too many goals.
Ravens boss Paul Jones. In hockey, 3 finals are taking place this weekend as the Mixed Plate, Cup and Bowl competitions come to a head at the NSC on Saturday. The Mixed Cup final sees Castletown Southerners versus Velkers C at 11:05 a.m. Next, the Mixed Plate final takes place as Vikings A play Backers A at 1 p.m. Finally, in the Mixed Bowl final, Harlequins B will take on Velkers D at 3 p.m. In football, Canada Premier League leaders Ayr United will take on Onken, whilst Peel play Ramsey. And in rugby, only one game this weekend as Douglas play Crewe and Nantwich in the Regional 2 Northwest on Saturday, and the Manx side are looking for a 4th consecutive home win.
And that's it from Update, compiled from the resources of Manx Radio's news department. Thank you to newsreader Chanel Sakou. And there's more sport coming up in a moment with Friday Sport Preview with Simon Quine. The stories you've heard on this update and much more Manx news, plus interviews and podcasts and the web's biggest source of Manx videos are all at manxradio.com and via the free Manx Radio app. Just like Manx Radio on Facebook, follow us on X and subscribe to the Manx Radio YouTube channel. And if you have a comment on the news agenda, a story you think we should be covering, or you just like to say hello from near or even from far, just email update@manxradio.com. Following Friday Sport Preview, it's Greatest Hits with Chris Kinley on Manx Radio. Then at 9 o'clock, jumping in with Howard and Chris Kane, followed by 90s Playlist with Nicola Holt at 10. But for me, Dave Moore, that's it from now. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
At November Tynwald, members pondered when is a dependency not a dependency. Should UK legislation introduced to the Isle of Man by Comyn be laid before Tynwald, and does the Isle of Man need a permanent representative in London? It's remarkable that there has been little discussion and even less change to our constitutional relationship with the UK for nearly quarter of a century. A fascinating topic for perspective this Sunday at 12 noon on Manx Radio with me, Phil Gaughan. Some have said that if it ain't broke, don't fix it, but perhaps it is broke, and politicians have just got so used to the decaying structure, they've not noticed its structural flaws.
It's time for a night of classic sing-alongs at the Mannin Hotel. On Saturday the 14th of December, it's Neil Diamond Tribute Evening, celebrating a lifetime of classic hits from one of the greatest singer-songwriters of all time. With a 3-course dinner, entertainment, overnight stay and breakfast all included for just £210 per couple. You really do get more from the Mannin Hotel. Booking essential. Just call 605 155. Visit manninhotel.im or find them on Facebook.
Spectrum Windows. If your house needs a new look and your windows let in rain, keep those cold breezes out and make it look like new again. Spectrum Windows, Spectrum Windows. Quality through and through. Great work guaranteed to you. Spectrum Windows, Spectrum Windows. Spectrum Windows.
When you save a little money
If you're looking for bathrooms and tiles, you'll always find something new in store at Pacesetter. For surprisingly affordable prices and excellent choice, search online for Pacesetter Douglas. Or better still, visit the Pacesetter Bathroom and Tile Showroom on Harris Terrace and see the new styles in store.
You can get the best of everything, where the price is twice as nice.
Employers, having trouble with staff and need reliable advice? Employees, are you treated fairly in the workplace or do you have a grievance?
The workplace can be problematic on both sides. For any work-related legal issue, contact the employment law experts, Man Benham. They advise employers and staff on all work-related problems with sound professional advice and a transparent fee policy. To arrange your free consultation at Man Benham, call today on 639 350.
Man Benham.